All right, so hi everyone. I think we're recording already. So we will start at 8:05 exactly while we wait for the other participants to join. But basically, we have a couple of guidelines. We have the first being you have to stay muted, turn your video off, ask your questions in the chat. Now, some of you have pre-submitted your questions, so we have those. But if you have any other questions that comes up, as Warren is talking, go ahead and just pop them in the chat. We also ask that you use respectful language in the chat. And that's basically it. So welcome to Tauke Talks. It's a series of sharing sessions where local business owners share about their motivation to start their business and the story behind their journey. My name is Mlati. I am the research head again of RYSE. We're a program that equips young people with entrepreneurial skills and the knowledge to start small businesses, and we are supported by Citi Foundation. We aim to showcase stories of small businesses that are persevering, doing well, and chasing their dreams through this series. So I'm really happy to welcome our guest for the day, Warren, the founder of Parkeasy. Hi, Warren.
Hi, Mulati and everybody.
Welcome to Tauke Talks. We're so happy that you're here. I'm sure you had a very busy day. So basically, the agenda for today is going to be the following. So Warren will introduce his business to us. So he'll introduce Parkeasy to us. And then we'll learn more about his story, starting Parkeasy, his experience building it. And then there's going to be a Q&A session where I'm going to ask Warren the pre-submitted questions first, and then I will go ahead and ask any questions in the chat box to him. And then we will go ahead and close, and we'll share with you some information about the next Tauke Talk and a little bit about our current online entrepreneurial program that we're running. All right, so if we're ready to go, let's just start. All right, Warren. So, can you briefly sort of tell us about your business? I'm familiar with Parkeasy, and I know the RYSE team is, but there's a lot of people watching this perhaps that don't know about you guys. So, please tell us a little bit about yourself and your business.
Sure. Thanks, Dr. Mulati. Thanks for the introduction, and excited to be here with everybody today. Okay, briefly about Parkeasy. So the easiest way to think about it is that the GSC movie app that you use to book movie tickets. We are a app that, like the GSC app, allows you to book your car park spaces. So if you're going to somewhere like Sunway Pyramid and you're afraid that there's going to be a lot of time wasted trying to find your car park, you can actually download our app and book a space up to an hour ahead of time. And when you arrive there, you're designated a particular car park bay. You have a little barrier that kind of like blocks the bay. When you press a button on your phone, that barrier goes down and you can park your car.
Sorry. I was on mute. Yeah. So I guess I'll follow the script, but I'll just add in one question, Warren. So how many locations are you at?
That list keeps expanding. I would say we're probably at like 15 or 16 now. Only way I can really find out is if I open up a document and count.
We'll take you at 16 then.
Yeah.
And how long have you been in operation?
So we were founded in 2014, so that's six years ago. But I like to always say that we only really found our footing in terms of the right model and everything about January 2017.
Okay. And so what inspired you to sort of start Parkeasy?
Okay. I'll give you the...
You can give us a real story.
I was going to give both, actually. Okay, so the one that I do in radio interviews is that I was going to Mid-Valley to watch a movie, and I had a date with a girl, and we both agreed to meet in front of the cinema, right? Now, I arrived on time for the movie, but I was in the car park, and I had to go find parking. It took me half an hour to find parking, and all the time I couldn't call the girl because reception was poor. And by the time I got out of the car and met her, she was upset because we were late for the movie. She almost thought I had stood her up because she couldn't reach me. And then, all this time as I'm nervous and worried about everything, I was just thinking, if I had used an app to book my movie ticket, how come I couldn't have used an app to book my parking as well? But good news is that we're married and we have a kid now. And that's a PR story.
Okay, so tell us the truth then.
Oh, I don't know. I had a brainstorming session and thought it was a good idea.
Is that really the true story?
Well, I have been late for movies because of parking. That's true. I am married I am married and I have a kid. But there was no particular incident where she thought I was sending her up or anything.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's fair. I mean, I think it's a wonderful PR story, and congratulations.
Thanks.
So going back, because we like to sort of talk about, how you get started, because a lot of our trainees are, people like you, but like 10 years pre you, I guess. And so what were some challenges that when you first started, and sort of how did you get over them for our sort of budding entrepreneurs out there?
So you're talking about like not even started stage, right? I think finding your starting team is difficult. For me, I was very lucky that I was doing a lot of stuff that gave me exposure to entrepreneurs. So right before I did Parkeasy, I was working in Social Enterprise Alliance, which was an NGO to kind of like help social entrepreneurs. So that automatically got me into a lot of these startup kind of events. And the way I met my co-founder, was that I was at this event and I was just saying, hey, I have this idea. And he said, I have the same idea. And to prove that he didn't just make it up on the spot, he actually pulled out his phone and showed me his Google Slides. And I was like, hey, that's pretty cool.
Wow.
And he was a tech guy and I'm a business guy. And it wasn't like immediate. It's not like we started working on it the next day or something. We all had our own commitments. It's just that when I happened to have a gap in my time, and he had a gap in his time, and that's kind of like how everything finally got going.
So in terms of that, so you were in something else and he was in something else, and then you guys kind of jumped and did this full time, or how did that transition work? Because we have a lot of trainees and students who, are kind of thinking like, should I do this full time or should I not? So what was your journey with that?
Okay. So what happened specifically was that I was still working in that Social Enterprise Alliance. And he was doing kind of like all sorts of like startup ideas. Like one thing is that he's a serial hackathon winner. Like he just goes to hackathons and he keeps winning them. Like I think he won like 4 or 5 hackathons.
Nice.
And one of the hackathons that he did win after that was for a particular parking idea, which isn't what we're doing now, but because that went well and there was good money from it, he actually started a company from there. And then he asked me to join. And then I joined, not immediately, but a short while after. Yeah.
And from then, did you have to build your team from scratch, starting with the two of you?
Yeah. Basically, just look for friends at the start. I don't know how I feel about that now. Like, I think a lot has changed over the years, and what I did is not necessarily what I would recommend everyone else do.
So don't hire your friends.
No, not really. It just there's if you want to go into it, there's like a lot of pros and cons, right? So um, early stage, I think a big question is how much money you have. If you have a lot of money or you have some money from somewhere, it's actually a good idea to hire people instead of hire like regular people instead of getting your friends. Because I think when you get your friends, you feel like they deserve a lot more salary, and then you try and pay them with equity instead, right? And equity is actually really expensive. So in hindsight, I would have preferred to not have spent equity on early partners. Yeah.
And how big is your team now, Warren?
We are about 6 people actually, and it's really funny because we used to be like 14, and we're doing so much more with 6 people. It's just a combination of like outsourcing, as well as like relying more on technology rather than brute manpower. I like to say sometimes that we have over 100 employees because if you're familiar with our hardware, which is that little yellow thing on the car park bay, because it's short and yellow, we call them a minion. And so we like have over 100 of those, right? So we like 100 minions working for us, instead of having 100 car park attendants, right?
Right.
So yeah, the technology is amazing.
Yeah, it sounds really cool. I'm not a tech person.
Yeah.
But yeah. Okay, so next question for you. So we just came out of this MCO, and we're gonna be doing this pandemic life thing for who knows how long. So for you, as sort of a business that seems just on the surface very sort of physical based, like people have to sort of be out to use your services. What kind of challenges did you face during the MCO when everybody was basically locked in their houses, and how did you adapt?
We basically had pretty much no business except for like some of our locations which were right next to the shopping supermarket. Some places gave us a rental waiver, which was nice, but not really everywhere. What I did a lot during that time, so a lot of different startups were trying to find different ways to make money with what they had given the time. And I think what advantage we have is only having a small 6-person team is that our burn rate is very low. So instead of trying to spend money to find a new way to make money, our decision then was like, let's go into hibernation mode and like spend as little money as possible and just wait it out. And what I personally did a lot during that time was I looked at my books again and again, my accounting books. So just making sure that like our accounting was more meaningful, that I could use it to understand how my business is doing and all that, seeing where I can cut money, I can make more, and which contracts need to be renegotiated. Right now, business-wise, we've actually hit as of July actually. So our numbers in July of 2020 is exactly the same as our numbers in July 2019.
Wow.
And since then, it's kind of like been matching. So I think we're doing about 2,500 to 3,000 reservations a month at the moment.
Wow. So it's bouncing back pretty well.
It's bouncing back. Yeah, definitely bouncing back. And on top of that, I mean, during MCO, I did come up with an idea, and we're doing a drive-in cinema at 1U. Anybody can go check it out now via the computer. It's www.cinedrive.my. That's being co-organized by us. It's happening like next Friday.
Nice.
It's exciting. It's going to be huge. Like 200 cars per seating, and the screen is bigger, like 1.5 times bigger than a badminton court.
Wow, I can't even imagine that.
Yeah, it's going to be amazing.
Is this something that you came up with during the MCO, or is that something that just kind of?
Yeah, that was during the MCO because there was like news internationally about Dubai started a drive-in cinema, and then we were like, hey, we are the people say that sometimes we are like the GSC app for parking, right? So now we are that parking app for GSC because we actually partnered with GSC on this too. So I mean, like,
nice.
Yeah, I mean, because you book your car park space to watch a movie, right? So yeah.
Right. Okay. And so now that we're kind of, like you said, business has sort of been bouncing back, and your July numbers from this year match last year. Are there any sort of new challenges that have popped up for you now that we're kind of in this, socially distanced world? And if there are any, what is sort of your solutions to them?
Well, I mean, one of my biggest difficulty has been when it comes to assessing new locations, trying to understand whether or not things are going to be like the same as before. So I was looking at this office building in Damansara Heights to install Parkeasy, and they were like asking for really high rates, and I was thinking that yeah, those rates make sense if COVID never happened. But COVID did happen, and I think as far as retail goes, like yeah, we see our numbers have gone back, but when I go to offices, I still feel that, especially for more of the knowledge worker kind of offices, it still seems like there's less people than before, and so I'm just not very confident to invest our hardware in locations that are impacted by COVID. So okay, how am I dealing with it? I don't know. I'm not putting the money down yet. I just.
Have you had to close old spaces because of COVID?
No, we haven't had to close any spaces because of COVID. Well, there's one location I'm contemplating, but I don't think we're going to close it. We're going to probably renegotiate to a revenue sharing. Yeah.
Okay. That's useful because I think a lot of our trainees are sort of thinking about new problems that cropped up. So it seems like just devoting more time to thinking about it is sort of your strategy to do this. Am I right?
Devoting more time to thinking about how to overcome COVID.
No, how to overcome challenges specific to your business because of COVID.
Oh, you mean, yeah, I guess I just took a wait and see approach for my investment decision making.
Okay. And so, okay, so given the, I guess I'll jump to the last question we have, because we have a bunch of other ones, but a lot of our trainees, I guess, or our students are young. I think it's mainly from like we work with 16-year-olds all the way up to like 25-year-olds. And so if you're thinking about, you know, you as somebody who's been in business for a while, and you know COVID happened, and you are a seasoned business person, do you think young people should go into business, and why? And we would like the truth and not the sugar-coated version, because we know a lot of people are sort of looking at what to do next, and so
yeah.
What are your thoughts on this?
I think if you want money, don't do startup. I mean, if you want stability and everything, don't do startup. I think that you'll get much better stability and pay if you to do a regular. If you get employed rather than taking a risk, right? And I also see that a lot of people so I've been around doing this for 6 years now, right? And I've seen startups that literally pop up and disappear within a year, right? And not to say like pop up quietly and disappear quietly, like they're big pop-ups, which like O-Bike is a good example, which popped up and everybody saw O-Bikes everywhere, and now you don't see O-Bikes anymore, right?
No, it's true.
So like when K-Fit was K-Fit, and then now they're Fave, but they didn't disappear. So anyway, my point here is that, not saying that those startups are like that, but I have seen some startups whereby people go in just for the sake of money. And the problem when you go in just for the sake of money is that when you hit those really difficult times, you realize that there's better ways to make money, like having a regular job. And so you wouldn't have that resilience and the motivation to actually continue on. So I think that doing it for money can't be your sole reason. You should have money. You definitely need to eat, but you need to have some sort of fuel aside from money, right? So I think I heard a vlogger talk about this recently, and I liked it, which is like we're all like a car, right? We're all a vehicle, and your vehicle can take different kinds of fuels, right? So he was talking about being fueled by wanting to prove others wrong. And he was saying how that can be a very strong motivator, but he was questioning whether it's a fuel that burns clean. Likewise, I would say if your fuel for driving your car is just because of money, it might not be able to get you to your destination if that's the only fuel you're using.
Nice. I like that, especially because it has to do with parking a little bit as well.
Cars.
Yes, cars.
Yeah.
All right. Okay, so that's all from us. We have more questions from the pre-submitted question. Okay, so from Greg, we have here, how did you find your CTO and how did you develop the organizational structure of the company at the early stages of formation? So very specific.
Yeah. So I think I mentioned so the co-founder, which I spoke about just now, was actually my CTO. So that's how I met him. How did we do the organizational structure at the start was that we basically had, so when you start out early stage in a tech startup, specifically tech, like it might be different for other startups, but for a tech startup, a lot of development is involved at the start. So we actually separated the team into business and tech. So tech would be responsible for developing the product, and then business was responsible for getting people to use the product and finding locations where the product can be rolled out. And of course, there was a lot of like intercommunication between the teams because it's so hand in hand at the early stages, right? You need your business to give a lot of feedback in terms of what customers are saying, and then you need your tech to be speaking to your business to tell them, okay, this can be done. This solution may be a bit difficult. There may be a third way that we can do it. That sort of stuff.
Okay. Claudia wants to know, do you think it's better to brainstorm first or have a clear business structure first?
I think that you should test things out with as little money as possible and as frequently as possible. So let's say there's a spectrum, right? And this hand is thinking and this hand is doing, right? So you don't want to be on either extremes, right? You don't want to be only thinking, never doing. You don't want to be just doing without any thinking. I think where you want to be is somewhere in between. Just make sure that you whenever you make an attempt, you hedge your bets. Like you don't spend too much money on it. What's a good example? Like I mean, if you wanna build a prototype, right? Maybe don't do steel like a steel frame. Use a plastic frame first. That kind of stuff. I'm just saying, like test out your ideas as cheaply as possible and do it quickly.
Do you guys at Parkeasy do a lot of this experimentation stuff, like testing?
We've gotten to a point now whereby I would say the technology is fairly mature in terms of like people are familiar with it. What we do now is actually a lot of data analysis. So what will happen is that we look at what people say when they cancel their reservations to see what are the top reasons for cancellations. And then if needed, we'll actually do calls to get qualitative data in terms of their personal experience of what exactly happened. And then if we hear that happening enough, then we actually integrate it into the app. So I think that's something we have the benefit of because we have all this data tracking. Obviously in the early stage, before you've even started the business, the only way to find out is to go and ask people. But when you're more mature, like we have 49,000 registered users now, we just basically look at data.
Interesting. I'll ask one more question, then I have some questions. But Sophia wants to know, how can Parkeasy ensure the hygiene, safety, and security of the parking spot? Like make sure it's clean and well maintained for the second user.
Sure. So we are by nature a contactless valet service. In fact, we ran a survey with our customers during MCO saying that how likely are you going to use valet services moving forward? And I think it was something like 50% said they will never use valet services anymore. And then like another 30% said that they're going to use them less. And then when I asked them between Parkeasy and valet services, which one are you more likely to use now? And it was like 99 point like something, but one guy said no, but everyone else said they use Parkeasy, right? And so we are contactless valet service. That's just who we are by nature. So even during MCO, we didn't stop operating because there's no people involved anyway, right?
Yeah.
It's like having a vending machine. You don't need to shut down your vending machine, right? So, but we're even better than a vending machine because you have to touch a vending machine. You don't have to touch us. Fully contactless.
So let's see. Candy wants to know: do you see yourself as more of a parking spot company, or more of a company that provides electricity for car, because you also charge by the hour for electricity? I'm sure.
So Candy is talking about our electric charging business, right? So we do car park reservations, and you can either reserve a non-electric car park bay or an electric car park bay. We have, out of like 100 plus bays, I would say like 80% is all non-electric. So actually electric is still a small portion of our business, but it is growing. Like we are literally now the largest private charging network in the whole of Malaysia.
Wow.
Yeah. It's us, and then Charge EV, which was one of the AL partners. Like back
that was
then.
the green tech one.
That was the green tech one. Yes, that's
Yep.
right. So green tech is the name of the company. Charge EV is their electric charging service. So they're still number one, but they are government owned. We are the largest private owned. So it's Charge EV than us. So the question was, do I see ourselves as a parking provider or electricity provider? Was that what the question was?
Yeah, basically a parking spot, parking company, or an electric charging company.
I would say that we are still so if you like Simon Sinek's start with why kind of thing, we are all about, our why is about making happy drivers, right? And whether it is in electric or just regular parking, they all have their own needs, and we're kind of like using that particular system we have to kind of like fill every single niche. So I don't really define us as like we are a parking provider or we are a electricity provider. I just think we are a company that's trying to make drivers happy.
Okay.
Yeah.
So Warren, do you see yourself doing Parkeasy and sort of like growing this business in the next 5 to 10 years, or do you think you will? Okay.
Well, you mean get acquired or something? Well, obviously, if I get acquired, I'm always happy. Like if somebody wants to give me
Is that something you're open to?
Oh yeah, all the time. What? Do you want a big sum of money? Yes, sure. I'll take it. I mean, for me, I think like if you say that if the driving purpose of Parkeasy is about making happy drivers, for me personally, it's always about reducing the amount of suffering in the world. So I think whatever I can do, which kind of like fits that particular personal purpose in life, it's good for me.
And so one last question for me before I see whether there are any other questions. So I don't know whether you can tell us this, but do you have any sort of expansion plans or sort of what's next for Parkeasy that you can tell us about?
Yeah, I mean, I can tell you stuff that we already do. Like we have a big project with EPF that's starting like next week, whereby they have a new office building, and we won the contract to their smart parking system. And basically the system, the concern they have is that they don't have enough car park spaces for all their staff. And so the typical way that you would handle this is that you would only issue as many season passes as your car park allows. Mm-hmm. But the problem with that system is that quite often you will go into a car park and you will see that there are lots of empty spaces because not everybody goes to work every single day.
Yep. especially now.
Yeah, especially, so that's the other thing, right? So anyway, this was before then. The system that we came up with, then we called it a dynamic parking assignment system, which is basically um, a system which allocates you an access every day. And so if you are not going to work that day, like in your HR calendar, it marks you on leave, then your car park will actually be assigned to somebody else. And then we're also trying to figure out a method that will give people an incentive to say that even if they're just going out at lunchtime and they're not coming back, like give them incentive to say that I have left, and then allowed somebody else to take their space. Now, you're right, it's going to become even more important now because of staggered work shifts. So I'm excited to see how it works out with EPF, and if it works out well, and then we can also kind of like promote that in other countries as well. So that's one thing we're doing. We're obviously expanding our electric segment. There are going to be a lot more really cool electric cars in Malaysia soon. With that one, I can't tell you which cars they are, but
Ooh, I was about to say you should tell us, but
yeah, no, I can't. But yeah, it's gonna be cool stuff. I think you should be able to drive from Penang to Singapore full electric. I would say by end of next year.
Wow.
Yeah. I mean, you can already kind of do it now, but I'm talking about like fast charging kind of stuff. So, yeah.
Do you work closely with the government on stuff like this? Because you had mentioned the green tech people. Do you work with them very much? I guess they're they're GLC, but not yet.
Yeah, well, we do have a lot of indirect ties. So Parkeasy has received quite a fair bit of investment from government-backed VCs. And then we have done some work with green tech. So we did My Town together with them, My Town, the IKEA side. TNB, I guess, is public listed / government linked. I don't know. Yeah, but in terms of like one of the directly with government, no. Like there was one point in time that we were trying to do something for street parking, and that's a big mess because all the street parking is under municipals. So every single municipal has a different system. And so that's why between KL and Selangor, you have different parking apps, even though it's basically
I know,
the same
it's really kind of annoying, yes.
Yeah. So we saw that and we were like, and then we deal with concessionaires and all this sort of stuff. It's just not worth it.
So Rui now wants to know, hi Warren, may I know how did you approach the car park operators?
Okay, so actually there's it's not always car park operators, yeah, because there's actually there's usually about 3 parties involved for every car park. So there's the owner of the car park, there's the technology provider, that's actually the parking hardware guy, like the guy who provides the payment machine and everything, and then there's the operator. And sometimes the operator and the landlord are the same people, sometimes they're separated. Typically in Malaysia, all of the big locations, like any shopping mall above like 3,000 car park lots, they would just manage parking themselves. Car park operators typically look after office buildings, anywhere below like 2,000 car parks, that kind of range. So far, we actually haven't dealt so much with car park operators because most of the locations that we are looking at are shopping malls or hospitals, and those are all operated by the landlords themselves. Now we are talking to some car park operators, but the way that we're doing it is we're using Knight Frank. So Knight Frank is a retail consultant. What do you call them? Property consultant?
Property, real estate?
I don't know. Like if Uniqlo wants to expand in Malaysia for the first time, like come from overseas, they would engage Knight Frank, and Knight Frank will get all the spaces for them. So we're kind of like going through that route for some of our car park spaces. Yeah, that's our story.
All right. Thank you. I actually didn't know that, but now I do, I guess, with the expansion stuff with Uniqlo and stuff. Okay. Cool. I think that's it from us. I'm gonna just open it up. Does anybody else have any other questions, or are we good? 3, 2, 1. Any last words, Warren?
Last word sounds like sounds like a death sentence. I don't know. I mean, this is
For
very.
our, if we have, we have quite a
Yeah.
lot of views from young people trying to see whether or not they should try this out. So.
Um, I think that if you want to do startup, you have to go in with the complete knowledge and acceptance that despite how clever you are, there's a 99% chance that you're gonna fail. And if you accept those odds and you still want to go ahead, then that's fine. But if you can't accept those odds, then don't bother. I mean, I've seen that like they're really smart people who have done startup, and they're much smarter than me. And they can be those 1-year companies that I talk about. Sometimes it's just luck, and sometimes it's just timing and everything. It's not Cinema Drive, it's Cine Drive. By the way, CINE.
Warren's correcting your link now.
DRIVE.my.
All right, wait, actually we have 2 more questions for you. Sorry. Okay, I'm going to take these 2 and then we will let Warren go. But Cassandra wants to know, what's your advice for seeking investors at the early stage? It'll be great if you can share your experience with that.
Thanks for correcting the link. Advice for seeking investors? Okay. So things were very different when I first started. When I first started, everyone was throwing money everywhere. Seriously, like I could just get money. Now people have gotten a bit more cautious. I think they got cautious after. I think WeWork was one of them, and then also there was a point in time around the time when I first started where Southeast Asia was like the hot thing. Like people had I think this was a time where Social Network, the movie, came out, Facebook going IPO, Airbnb was doing fantastically well, and then people were saying that Southeast Asia is going to be a big thing, and they were looking at Grab and Gojek and Tokopedia as like good examples, and because of that, a lot of money was coming into Malaysia. My experience with raising money has always been there's a lot of startup pitch events around, and if you go to enough of them and you pitch enough times, you will perfect your pitch like a stand-up comedian, because that's how stand-up comedians get their pitch right. And you'll eventually get an investor who's interested. I think you just have to go out there and you have to keep going, pitching and pitching and pitching, and get feedback as to why your pitches may or may not be working. Yeah.
Lucas wants to know, how do you market your apps to users?
Good question. So we have learned that the best way to market our app is in the car park. So we used to do a lot in terms of SEO and not SEO, AdWords and Facebook ads and whatever ads that we can get. And then we found that the most successful ads were actually in the car park itself, just having a very visible presence inside the car park. Like we make sure that we always have pillar wrapping. The Shell electric ones that we do, we really, because we have more budget there, we really have like the spotlights and everything. Can't even know. But yeah, that's how people actually see us the most. Because I think even if you to say a Facebook ad about Parkeasy, it's not something you can buy on the spot, not like an e-commerce ad. Like if I was advertising GoPro and you see a GoPro banner, you just click on the GoPro banner and and buy the GoPro, right? Whereas like it's not going to be a situation whereby you're scrolling Facebook and you see, oh look, parking. I want parking now as I'm sipping my coffee. No, right? The point of sale is in the car park, and that's why we found that to be most effective.
All right. Lucas says thank you. Awesome. Okay, so it's nearing 8:45. So I think if there are no more questions, I would like to thank Warren. So just to recap everybody, if you're just starting to watch, so that was Warren from Parkeasy sharing about their experiences at Tauke Talks, brought to you by RYSE, supported by Citi Foundation. And if your goal is to start a small business or to learn more about business building, we have a free online course called RYSE Online. It's currently on your screen right now, so you kind of get a sense of what's happening there. And let's see, what else do I say here? Yes, next Tauke Talk. So our next Tauke Talk will be Shui Ying from Aga Aga Nyonya. I hope I did not mispronounce your name, but it will be on 17th of September at 8 p.m. So to learn more about entrepreneurship or stay tuned about our other programs, like and follow us on our social media accounts, which you can see right here. And thank you so much, Warren. I actually, I'm always very inspired when I sort of hear the background of businesses, because I think it's pretty cool. Like the tech seems really cool. The fact that you guys are a very lean operation is really cool to me. So congratulations, I guess. And you've been around for a while, so I hope that it continues being an awesome adventure for you.
Yeah, we're definitely gonna be around for a lot longer.
Yes, definitely. Especially now that you were talking about like the, I don't have to touch you guys, right? It's sort of a virtual valet type thing. I like that. So
Yeah.
All right. Thank you, Warren. So all the best, and I guess that's it. Thanks, everyone, and thanks. Warren.
No
Bye-bye.
problem. Bye.